Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Village of Lake Bluff Board of Trustees regular meeting, and it is Monday, and it is June 10th, 2019. Could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Ankerman.
Here.
Trustee Charlo.
Here.
Trustee Grenier.
Here.
Trustee Meyer.
Here.
Trustee Markey and Trustee Toll are not present.
Okay, before we begin with the pledge, I would like to welcome some new faces to our board. I'd like to recognize Mr. Regis Charlot, who is our new board member, and Ms. Megan Michael, who is our new clerk. Our other new board member, Joy Marquis, is with her family at Cooperstown for the annual, what is it, the Lake Bluff Baseball Association trip to the Hall of Fame.
And tournament.
Tournament, oh, tournament.
Importantly, a tournament.
A tournament, okay, I forgot. All right, can everybody please stand for the pledge? Of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. We have the consideration of the minutes of the May 13th, 2019 special and regular village board meetings. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Grenier. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by
Meyer.
Mr. Meyer, thank you. All righty, any additions, corrections to those? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
At this time, we allow 15 minutes for anyone in the audience who might want to address the board on something that is not on tonight's agenda. Okay, all righty, is that you, sir? Yes. Please come on up. Come up, you have to come up here because you're on TV. And thank you.
Howard Tesler, 507 Cambridge. My question is, should it be taking over a month to finish the water pipe on Cambridge? It's very disruptive. I worry that I'm going to lose Big Oak, and it doesn't appear that they're finished. And so question is, how long should it take to run a water line one block? And shouldn't there be better communication with the people on the street to let us know if there's a problem or why it's taking so long?
Thank you, sir.
Jeff, could you come up to this is our village engineer, Jeff Hansen. He'll talk about some of the specifics, but I think a big part of it is that we were dealing with the wettest May on record, so let's slow down a lot of our construction projects, but do you want to cover?
Yeah, and that was a big part of it. I think I looked at Jake Turlap actually pulled the data. We had 8 days in May, which it did not rain. So that's a big part of it with the rain. We do have somebody on site with them most days. If you do have any questions, you're always free to call me, or we have a project representative watching the contractor. But the biggest issue was the rain. They are nearly complete with the water main work. I think they were switching the services over today to the new water main. The street patching will come. But yeah, it was the May weather really that bled this out for so long. The contractor has been motivated in trying to get through this project. They're doing a section on Armour Drive as well as Cambridge at the same time, so they've been kind of bouncing back and forth between the two streets. But again, it's been mostly weather delays in May.
Jeff, would you also cover too, just how when we let the contracts in terms of methods and means, and also when kind of the contract window when they can operate?
Our contract requires essentially that they work diligently once they start. I feel like they have. They're out there most days that they can work. We give them a window. I forget exactly when our end date start as soon as possible, which was May 1st. Our new fiscal year starts May 1st, and that's when they were allowed to start. I think they started very shortly after that.
As did the rains.
Yes, as did the rains. And our contract basically says once you start, you can't just go away for 3 months and come back. You have to work diligently to complete the job. It's just they've lost so many days to weather. It's just hard to work on underground things when it's raining and muddy. I guess that's kind of the short answer. It's mostly weather delays. But I'll give you my contact information, and if you do want to talk about it more, feel free to give me a call at any time. I believe you were notified when they shut off your water to change the service. The other part of this job is we did directionally bore the water main to try to reduce disturbance, but obviously they have to come back and put the hydrants in. They got to dig that up. They got to dig up the places to switch the services. So it is getting a little messy, but it should be concluded in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, all right. Anything else? Thank you. Mr. Russell, I believe you wanted to speak.
And I won't speak about water mains. I wanted to remind everybody, including our listening audience, that in 23 days, 14 hours, and 52 minutes, the Lake Bluff 4th of July parade kicks off. I know it doesn't seem like it with the weather we've been having this spring, but 23 days from now, the 4th of July parade is run completely by volunteers. The day of the parade, there are many things that need to be done to help the parade be successful. The 4th of July Parade Committee is needing volunteers to work the morning of the parade and during the parade. Extra volunteers are needed from 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. in particular. If you can help, please contact George Russell at 847-722-0831 or my email, grussellmep@gmail.com. Or you can get on the parade's website, lb4july.org. That's lb4july.org. For everybody that's here, I'm going to leave contact information over on the little kiosk there. On your way out, you can grab a slip. If you think the parade is exciting by watching it from the parkway, it's even a heck of a lot more exciting being behind the scenes. You will not regret your decision to volunteer. So if you can help us out, particularly that morning, Kathy, you're not allowed because you volunteered way too much, but everyone else is welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? All right, we'll go back to that. All right, we have the finance report for May 16th through 31st. And June 1 through 15th, and the May 2019 payroll. We have expenditures of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $232,206.26 for May 16th to 31st. We have expenditures of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $574,025.96 for June 1 through 15. Total expenditures are in the amount of village funds for payroll are in the amount of $306.67 for May. Total expenditures of $1,113,998.89. Do I have a motion for approval of disbursements?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Grenier. Do I have a second by Ms. Ankerman? Any comments or questions from members of the board? Hearing none. Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Enkelman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Okay. Got away scot-free this time. All righty. We have the village administrator's report.
Thank you. Several months ago, the village was fortunate enough to be approached by the Green Minds of Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, a group that's focused on, I would say, sustainable living practices and using, I don't want to spoil too much of it, but I don't know, do you want to come to the microphone? They're going to give a presentation. Yes, please. To do a presentation regarding their new app for the community.
Is there any chance there's a connection for the monitor?
Absolutely.
So while he connects that,
set up to go right now.
I got it.
while he connects that, Green Minds was started in late 2014, and today we've grown to well over 140 members, and we have several subcommittees working on different issues. Our vision is to bring more sustainable awareness and education to our communities, and when we say communities, it's Lake Forest and Lake Bluff we focus on. We don't have any political agenda. We have members from all parties. We have members, all of us believe in we need to become a little bit more sustainable aware and practice more sustainability responsibility without becoming religious about it. We don't believe that we should stop flying. We don't believe in ditching our cars and turning off the electricity. But being a little bit mindful about what we do, and also think about, we do consider finances, and the reason why we went into the recycling is as well because it's costing us a lot of money with landfills. There's potentially a lot of money that we're going to have to expend if we outuse our current landfills. So it's a big issue for us, both financially and environmentally. Do you want to talk about that?
So I'm Marcus Norman. I'm on the board at Green Minds, and I recently started working with the group or joining the group. So my initial involvement immediately was learning that there was this possibility to build this app. So having my background being in graphic design and branding and marketing, I raised my hand pretty quickly and said, hey, let's get this done. And we were able to partner with, that's the two of us, and contact information if you need it. The two of us kind of spearheaded a group, then working with a high schooler who was the developer on this. Wonderful character. It was a tremendous opportunity for all of us to work with him. And then got a data analyst involved as well, because there are two fairly sizable databases when you think about all the addresses in the two communities, the village of Lake Bluff, of course, and the city of Lake Forest. And then there's also a database of over 500 items that you can search. I'll go through this very quickly. What we're going to talk about quickly today is how the app was created, and I alluded to that a little bit, how you can find the app, how you can use the app, and any plans that we might have. So quickly, the objectives we had were, and you touched upon this, was to increase community awareness around the involvement around sustainability, encourage waste reduction where possible. We realize there is a great expense that happens at the point of collection and sorting where contamination is adding costs that unnecessarily if we all practice better recycling. And then of course we have a personal agenda for the group because we do feel like the more people that are green-minded in our community, the better. And our strategy was to use our community group to partner with the two government bodies to create a content-rich, user-friendly, which was the focus. We want to make sure the bar of entry is low on this to get this app to be used and adopted and make it available for free.
And in that, actually, our programmer, who's a high school student at Lake Forest High School, he was really amazing because he was like, why do we want to go with the old ways that all the apps do? This is much more user-intuitive. So he came up with a platform where he said people who have never used an app, they will actually know just to click. And it's a lot easier to navigate around once you understand that this is not traditional. And we do believe this is going to be the future for apps, that they're much more intuitive for newcomers.
And this was the team, basically. So you, Christian, is the high schooler who did all the development, Isa Anderson, and myself. And then we resourced help for proofing and database completion from various members of the Green Minds team as well. We did this over 8 weeks, so it was a fairly quick and aggressive time schedule because we needed to work on the high school schedule. Countless hours volunteered and meetings with different divisions of the government, and then phone calls, text, emails, various meetings, of course, pursued. All right, so I like to think most people know how to download an app, but I'm not sure that's true.
We learned that that was not true. I don't know how many we haven't had to install it for when we go out.
So it's available on Google Play and the App Store. So developers are very happy right now because it's a lot easier to make cross-platform apps, whereas 2 years ago, or even a year ago, that was a much bigger ordeal. So if you have either of these on your home screen on your phone, if you have an Android phone, you have the little arrow. If you have an Apple phone, you have the stylized A, the popsicle stick logo, as they call it. And when you open up those apps and you search specifically these letters, recycle space LFLB, the first app that comes up the top of the screen will be the Recycle LFLB app. You select download, and within a few minutes, you have it. And it'll look like this when you do it.
is it.
Thanks to Tegan Haswell, she's a senior at the high school?
No, she's a sophomore.
Sophomore.
Lake
Lake
Bluff
Bluffer?
student.
Yes.
Lake Bluffer, oh. So now that you have the app, you're the happy owner of a free app, you can tap this button, this icon on your phone to open it up. And initially you will see a screen that looks like this, where both maps, wards, and areas are shown, as well as a data entry area that you can type in your address.
If you live in Lake Forest.
So that's for Lake Forest residents only. We wanted to make this accessible for both. Touch your area if you know it. We've tried to define those with street areas, so it's a little as clear as possible. Once you enter this, you never have to do it again. This is just so the app knows which database it needs to contact to call up. And then what you'll see on the home screen is not in this orientation, but you'll see these 6 tiles. And I'm going to go through 4 of these because I think our local recycling guidelines, everybody can have a lot of fun reading that later tonight if they want. And about Green Minds, I think you guys know how to find out more about us if you want. We've said probably enough already. So these are, I think, they're very relevant tabs for most residents. So first of all, finding out your next collection day. Sometimes life gets busy and we forget to even put things out for our Thursday or Monday or Tuesday pickups. So there's a pickup reminder as well. The middle tab up there, what goes where, I personally have used several times when, for example, I realized I had an extra pair of shoes. So I type in shoes in that area and it'll tell me locally where to recycle it or what to do with it. What is the best sustainable practice to do that? You can type in anything and that list is growing. As that database gets updated, it is reflected on every user's phone when they consult the app. And then support is, of course, that kind of catch-all for a lot of different functions. So this is what the Find Your Next Collection Date looks like after you've established your location. In this case, it's Lake Forest Area 1. And you can scroll ahead to see, if you want, what goes where. So this is the searchable part. Now, what's fun about this is if I typed in an A, it's predictive. So I can see, oh, everything that starts with the letter A. And as I call it down, obviously, as I type in more letters, that list will get shorter. And this is an example of, like, if I search laptops, it tells me where to bring it. And this would be based on my location because this is my data that it's pulling up. But it might be different for you. So you'll notice that at the top of the list, we've got what we're calling the most sustainable option. But there's also, if you can't do the sustainable option, there's this recycle or least preferred, which is the refuse option, and what you can do with that item. In this case, I typed in mobile phones. And then setting pickup alerts, we simply allowed 2 radio buttons you can toggle between, or you can actually do both. You can have a reminder set the morning of 6:30 or at 7 o'clock and the night before. And then the support tab has gives you the ability to search a different pickup area if you happen to need to do that. Find out where you can purchase bins, carts, and stickers, etc., any FAQs, and then additional local resources, and finally, an absolution for the disclaimer, in the disclaimer. Just some press that we've had today. Lake Forest Leader's been very generous in writing this up. Chicago Tribune Online picked up a story a while ago as well. And then our plans, they're not grandiose or anything. We want to continue promotion and sharing of the app and get the word out as much as we can. Currently, we've got 435 users as of before the weekend, I think. What's great is the retention's pretty high. So 303 people after 30 days have continued to use it, which is a really good sign. Much better than I would have hoped. So we're obviously taking feedback, any ratings we get on iTunes, which haven't been a lot at this point. I suppose that's good. No noise is good noise. Tips and facts, we'll be adding those as we go along.
Yeah, that's one thing we're hoping to add. As you saw when you started up the app, it starts with a little Unity logo, and that is one thing we can replace with a daily sustainable tip, and we have a whole list of the tips that is already ready to go that can be rotating. The problem is that's something that's going to cost us $750 extra per year, and currently Green Minds doesn't have that funding, so we are holding that. If we get a sponsor, we might provide, if say Groot would come and say we'd like to sponsor that, we might provide that and say daily sustainable tip by Groot. So that's one thing that we are hoping to be able to add, because we could also add other tips that the village or the city would like to have on it. You know, there might be some messages you want to have people see when they open up the app.
Mm. And then some video clips potentially. We've talked about the number of packages that come from Amazon, and you could classify them into, say, 5 different buckets, so to speak. Maybe we can tackle those and explain exactly how you can manage those to recycle those elements that you get from the courier. And then, as you mentioned, funding would be great. An additional partner would be great. We're open. It's interesting that we've had calls from northern Wisconsin, River Forest, Oak Park, Telluride, all with general interest about this app. So word is getting around. We're not the only community to have an app like this. The Pacific Northwest has, in Canada, Vancouver. That's a lot of what we looked at when we developed this app, but from a user perspective and architecture, we kind of started from scratch on this. Thank you for your time. We appreciate very much the support that we got from Lake Bluff.
Yeah. Glenn and Drew has been really great partners for us.
This could not have happened. To be as robust at this as this app is would never have happened. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very,
I just
very
wanted to
much.
say that just this week I had something that I thought, I don't really want to throw it away. I think I could recycle it. I'm not sure if I can, and I'm going to download this app. I'm going to use it. This is wonderful. I absolutely love it. So thank you.
I really appreciate 2 bits of content on here in particular. One is getting easy to figure out what really should go into recycling. I know that there have been a lot of problems with that, especially with kids, what to put in there.
Yeah.
And the other is also helping to promote the composting, the organic waste, and because I know we could really move much more quickly on that than we probably are. And one last bit of feedback on your list of recycling guidelines. I would expect it to be in alphabetical order, and you have Lake Forest to be for Lake Bluff, which would be an error. Switch it around.
Well, and the map had Lake Bluff south of Lake Forest. I'm
very
just
much.
saying.
Can you isolate the number of users and differentiate how many of the downloads are from Lake Bluff versus Lake Forest?
Could we
No,
find?
we haven't had that, but
I'm
we
not
have been
sure.
able to, so far we've been able to isolate that we can see that 20% is Android and 80% is Apple-based. And we've been able
Probably-
to see how much people use it, but
I'm going to check because it seems like we should be able to.
Not
could
that
have-
we're in a race or anything.
Yeah, it's interesting because I waffle between should we make communities competitive one another?
Oh, absolutely.
But we're all in this together. You know, it's not.
No, but as a member of the Solid Waste Agency of Lake County, there's always a lot of, I'll say somewhat civil, competitive nature about who can be the best in terms of being innovative or creative. And, Lake Bluff was the first community in the state of Illinois to have our own ride-along program and year-round composting, so.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a lot of opportunities to brag with that type of
Yeah.
and
competition, so.
we have taken it a little bit further with the city of Lake Forest. They've asked us to do that. So Marcus created some little door tags, sort of, that whenever somebody puts something in the recycling bin that's very obvious that's contaminating the recycling, they put this like sort of, oops, something went wrong, and they have the 6 most frequent contaminants on that door tag that the haulers to try and get people to stop those practices. So we are working on different ways, and if you are interested in something, we're of course willing to work with you as well.
I think we would be interested, yes.
I've always tried to get Eagle Scout project to do that, and I've always struggled to get an Eagle. They always want to construct something. They don't. They don't want to dig through trash. I can't believe it.
Yes. Thank you
Great
again.
work.
Seriously,
Yeah.
what
Bravo.
a
Thanks,
great
you.
asset to the community. Thank you. Okay, village president's report. Well, it's been a busy year in Springfield. And why does that matter to Lake Bluff? Well, perhaps in the old days, it never did matter too much to Lake Bluff, what was going on in Springfield. We were always very concerned what's going on here in our town, and, you know, making sure the garbage is all picked up and the roads are clean and the potholes are filled and all of that. But it's a different world that we live in now, and we're very much connected to what's going on the outside. And what is happening in Springfield and in other areas does have a tremendous impact on municipalities, and certainly including Lake Bluff. So we are really, and I will have to, the administration and even myself, we've spent a lot of time this year looking to see what's happening and how does it impact us. So a lot of things, several thousand bills were introduced this year into the state legislature, and numerous ones had major impact on us. Number one of the ones right now is the new cannabis bill for recreational cannabis. We are in the process of trying to find out exactly what that means for municipalities and for law enforcement. So right now we're going to, because it will go into effect, I believe, in January of 2020. We're going to push the pause button, and we're very fortunate with our law firm of Holland and Knight that you have the leading expert lawyer on recreational cannabis and how it is implemented and how municipalities can work with all that. So we are going to be working with Holland and Knight and coming up with options for us, and I will be bringing back to the board for discussion and implementation if agreed upon, what best fits our community and where we want to go with this. So that will be upcoming. Stay tuned. Also, there was a very interesting bill called Senate Bill 37, which called for part-time firefighters, of which we have quite a few in Lake Bluff, who work full-time for other departments, but work for us part-time. And this bill, would have required us to pay into their pension systems for disability and everything else, which could financially be very devastating to small volunteer, pay-no-call communities like us, and there were others. So under Drew's leadership, we hired a lobbyist to work with us, to work with LaGrange Park, to work with Northfield, Berkeley, and Westmont, because all of us small communities were facing the same issue. If this law passed, it could have really devastating financial effects on us. So what has happened with this bill is that it was revised to say we need to notify departments that we have part-time firefighters on some of that. So there will be no money or anything else. But again, it's something that we have to constantly keep at, because it could be reintroduced again. And all of these have huge impacts on us as a community. Also, the other interesting bill was House Bill 137 had a direct impact on municipalities, because this proposed law would say that absolutely no public work such as painting your fire hydrants, other things around that you do in the summer that you hire with usually a lot of times summer employees and high school students, everyone would now have to join a union before we could do that. Again, cost-wise for small municipalities, huge. That has been tremendously modified so that we can paint our fire hydrants with our Boy Scout volunteers, if they want to put them up, or summer employees and things of that type. But again, these bills can have devastating impacts on us financially and other municipalities, so we have to constantly be aware of that. The expanded gambling has passed. That will expand casinos. I know that they're certainly looking at one in Waukegan, and I think, Regis, you told me that perhaps that's going to be at 120 in Waukegan, which is what they call Fountain Park up there, if it's going to be built, and they've been looking for that for years, which is relatively close to us. Video games gambling will be expanded, and sports gambling will be added. So there are things that, definitely could impact. Now, Lake Bluff does not allow video gambling at all, but right across the street from us is unincorporated areas, which that is allowed. So there are concerns in how that be expanded. So we're looking at that. There is a new capital bill for the first time in 10 years, which is great, but how they're going to fund it may not be so great, particularly to people like me who has a gas guzzler car. But they are going to increase the motor fuel tax from 15 cents to 38 cents a gallon, which will have big impact on that. They will also increase the registration fees and things for your car, for our cars like this. The one good thing that comes out of it, that the monies that will be collected from the motor fuel taxes, which have to be used for streets and roads. It cannot be diverted anywhere else, which is actually good. Our share will increase. I think this year, for next year, we were scheduled to get about $155,000. It will look, with the new tax, that will now go up to like $259,000. So about $100,000 increase for our small community, for roads and things. So that will have some significant impact for us on that. So I think also the state is also continuing to eat into our local distributive fund tax. They are still taking out 5% of that, which results in a loss of thousands of dollars a year to us and millions of dollars to other communities also. And they will still continue to take a 1.5 administration fee for our home rule sales tax. So hopefully we are looking to try in the next year to try to get that eliminated so we can get the full funding that we are supposed to get. But again, this takes time, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of things. I know Drew spends hours on the phones with various things with our legislatures. I do too. I made 2 trips down to Springfield in March with other mayors and things of this type. It is a different world out there, and we have to be cognizant of that as this comes. Okay, the only other thing, a couple of things I'd like to mention is farmers market. We had our first farmers market. The day was gorgeous. It was a great start to the year. The farmers market is one of the big pluses for our community. We also had our first block party last week, and by all accounts, it was a big success, very populated and fun. We've got June 22nd, which is the History Museum's car show. And of course, July 4th is coming up. And I'd like to end, of course, with our condolences and great sadness to the family of longtime Lake Bluff resident Kurt Gronow, who served on the park board and many other things. He was kind of known as the mayor of Scranton Avenue for years. So our condolences to the family. That ends my report for the night. How about the village attorney's report, which I skipped over, and I am sorry, sir, because I know you really wanted to talk.
I have no report tonight.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
Said it all.
That said it all. All right. We have acceptance of the correspondence, that all correspondence has been delivered to the village board in the informational reports on May 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st, 2019. Do I have a motion to accept the correspondence?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Grenier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we now have number 11 here, which is a resolution authorizing a grant agreement by and between the Village of Lake Bluff and the Office of the Secretary of State of Illinois for the Lake Bluff Park District regarding improvements to Sunrise Park and Beach. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved, Ms. Ankerman, and a second?
Second.
Mr. Meyer.
Mr. Meyer, thank you. Last summer, the Lake Bluff Park District announced it received $350,000 in grant funds from the Build Illinois Bond Fund to the Office of the Secretary of State for costs associated with access improvements to Sunrise Park and Beach. As we are aware, the Lake Bluff Park District is the owner of Sunrise Beach and Park. Some people aren't aware, they think the village owns it. It is actually a park district asset and is responsible for the maintenance and operation of the beach. Because the grant legislation technically awarded the funds to the Village of Lake Bluff and amending the Appropriation Act was not possible, the Village and Park District entered into an intergovernmental agreement to memorialize the respective obligations of each agency regarding the grant and the beach improvements on April 8, 2019. So on May 21st, the Park District requested the village execute a Secretary of State grant contract by no later than Friday, May 24th, in order to ensure the Secretary of State could receive a signed contract by June 1st, and to secure the grant funds. With no planned village board meeting until June 10th, and with limited time to act, Village Administrator Irvin executed the grant on behalf of the village on Thursday, May 23rd. At this time, it would be appropriate for the village board, as the proper authority, to enter into the grant contract to ratify this grant agreement. And as previously reported, it is anticipated the Park District will bring the plans for the proposed access improvements to the village for review later this year. I have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any comments? Is anyone here from the Park District?
No.
No. Okay, does anyone have any comments or questions regarding this?
There aren't any, all liabilities, everything is transferred to the Park District as it was
Exactly.
Yes.
intended. I didn't go into the details of that. I thought Bill probably did.
Okay,
If he's okay with it, I'm
all right. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Trustee Charlo.
Yes.
Trustee Grenier.
yes.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Engelmann.
Aye.
Okay, it passes. Now we have an ordinance granting a variation from the village's gross floor area and side yard setback regulations, and the subject is 224 East Center Avenue. Do I have a motion, please? This is a first reading consideration. Have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Ackerman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, that is
Mr.
Mr.
Meyer.
Meyer, thank you. At its regular meeting in May, the PCZBA held a public hearing to consider granting the following variations concerning 224 East Center Avenue upon the application of its owners, Harry and Lois Nickel. 1, a 249-foot variation, which is 10% from the maximum gross floor area restrictions of Section 10-5-6 to allow the construction of an addition to be used as kitchen and storage space, and a 1-foot, 3.5-inch variation, which is a 25.8 variation from the village's R4 side yard setback restrictions of Section 10-5G-2 to allow the relocation of an air conditioner condenser within the addition footprint. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the PCZBA voted unanimously to recommend approval of the variations with the condition that the storage component of the addition shall not be converted for habitation at later date. Additionally, within of the approving motion, the PCZBA indicated it desired for the applicant to again contact an adjacent owner who had not provided testimony. Since the PCZBA's meeting, the adjacent owner has provided a letter which has been attached to your materials expressing no objection to the requested variations. All right, do we have any, I know the Nichols are here this evening, does anyone have any questions for the folks? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is a voice vote first reading, and we'll have one more reading, and hopefully it'll happen. We now have an ordinance granting a variation from the village's minimal front yard setback regulations, and this is for 407 East Prospect. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Meyer and a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ankerman. At its regular meeting in May, the PCZBA held a public hearing to consider granting 407 East Prospect Avenue an 8.75-foot variation, which is 44%, from the minimum front yard setback restrictions of Section 10-5-3 of the village's zoning regulations to allow the construction of an open front porch. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the PCZBA voted unanimously to recommend approval of the variation with the condition that the width of a protruding step be reduced to 5 foot 6 inches, which is a typical step width used elsewhere in the zoning regulations. Are there any, this is also first reading, and is there any comments around here? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I would like to make one comment. I did notice in the presentation on that, there was a letter of objection from a neighbor that was well-written, factual, respectful, and was a really good discussion. And one of the things that I did think about in there was just to maybe reiterate that these ordinances that people can require or request variances for are not locked in stone, but the intent of them is to, at least when it's crossed over, is to give the opportunity for the person requesting a variance to argue in front of these various boards and review that, and it's our obligation to, we don't always, aren't gonna hold strictly to the law of these things, and in this case, I think this was an opportunity for us to say, yes, technically, we could hold a strict adherence to this front yard setback, but we should, as a community, take a chance to look at the overall impact of it. And in this case, I think even though the arguments against were coherent, I still felt that it was overall better for the community to approve something like this. So.
Okay. And that is another reason why we have advisory groups like the PCZBA,
Right.
which vets things first even before they come to us. So again, there's this it's everything, hopefully in the village, is a process, and it needs to go through that process so that everyone has a right to be heard. Thank you for bringing that up, Eric, by the way. All righty, we have number 14 now, which is an ordinance granting a special use permit to Quest Performance Training LLC to operate a physical fitness facility 500 square feet or greater in the village's L1 Light Industry Zoning District. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Charlotte. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mayor,
Second. It was first by Meyer.
we got it in the
Got
notes.
it.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. All right, this is a regular meeting in May. The PCZBA held a public hearing to consider granting a special use permit to allow Quest Performance Training to operate in a multi-tenant space, Unit 22 of 910 Sherwood Terrace, within the village's L1 Light Industry District. Quest Performance Training had previously started operations and was notified they required a special use permit where they applied for a business occupancy certificate. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the PCZBA voted unanimously to recommend approval of the special use permit with no conditions or restrictions. The PCZBA additionally indicated that it wished to revisit the use restrictions in the L1 Light Industry District in the immediate future, as the group's consensus was that it should consider reducing the volume of zoning relief necessary to operate certain types of businesses within the L1 Light Industry District. The PCZBA will discuss this subject at its June regular meeting. Again, this is first reading consideration. Are there any comments or questions? I will point out that when the Waukegan Road Corridor Project Committee was set up, and I was its chair, that was one of the recommendations that came out, was to start with the PCZBA to look at those recommendations, those current zoning things, to allow more flexibility for various types of industry retail within that area.
Just to align, to actually have the CBD, all those uses.
Central business
be
district,
the
to
same
align what
out
we
there.
allow there with what's out west there. And I'm very pleased to see this, the PCZBA is going to be looking at that.
Take some time.
It takes a while, yes, sometimes. All righty, since there are no other comments, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll add one comment. Given
Oh, I'm
all of
sorry.
that, I'm sorry I didn't do it soon enough, but I'll do it now. Do we really need to come back on this? Could we just pass this on without doing a second reading, giving all of this background here with,
Yes?
Yes, we could.
well, I hereby move that we do.
Could we-
Did
okay.
first reading pass?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, so move to waive the second reading and be done with it.
All right, I move, do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
A second by Mr. Grenier. Any comments or questions? Does this have to be a roll call?
Yes, it does.
Okay, roll call, I thought, okay.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Anchorman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
And I, because I need to vote, and I say
President
aye.
O'Hare.
Very good, thank you. I think that was a good, thank you, Mr. Meyer, that was a good idea, because this is something that we have wanted to have happen here, for flexibility in there. All righty, trustees report. Do any of the trustees have a report or something they would like to discuss tonight?
Can I actually make one comment back on the cannabis? You mentioned
Certainly.
one thing. So as soon as Governor Pritzker signs that bill, it's effective immediately. So possession and use take effect when he signs it. The January 1, 2020 date you mentioned is for cultivation and the retail sale of the recreational cannabis.
Okay.
So I just want to make that
Peter,
clear.
I didn't have
The
a que-
chief is getting ready because his part starts right away.
Well then, Peter, I have a question. I haven't read the whole bill or the whole law, I guess soon to be. Do we have any option, the only options we have is as to the cultivation and sales? We don't have any option as to anything else?
We have no option with regard to the possession and use.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, that's what I meant to
Right,
say.
right.
You're more articulate today. All right,
We
so
do have,
we have no,
That part we can't change.
no ability.
We will be able to prohibit the sale and cultivation centers from being in the village, or to regulate, if we allow them, then to regulate. That option we have, but we have a little bit of time to adopt those ordinances if that's the direction.
Is there a drop dead date on that?
point, we will be back with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the first step, and that's what President O'Hare was talking about earlier. There'll be a red flag resolution
Yep.
that we're going to get delivered very soon here, which will be sending up the flag to say, hey, we're going to hit the pause button while we consider how we handle the retail side of it and the that side of it.
And at that point, your options will be brought back to you. Here.
Linda Hine did a good presentation on this, I think through the League of Women Voters, and this is a really extensive piece of legislation,
Yes.
much more than any other one that we've seen in the other states. Like California's just allowing you to grow it yourself and use it. This is the whole regulatory.
It's more like Michigan's.
Well, and
So
you have
it's like
to,
the liquor stores, it'll be.
no, it's not.
Well, it's heading in that direction. or
No, it isn't.
maybe- Okay.
It is not. Believe me, I've spent,
And we have no home grow.
right, the only thing that we really got out of this piece of it,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, was, what the majority of mayors, municipalities, certainly in the ones we did, wanted to have it regulated like the liquor industry.
Yes, that's
okay?
what I was trying to say. I'm
But,
sorry.
but that did not happen.
Yeah.
Okay, because that would have given local communities a little more control over this. That did not happen. We also, most of us were also, to be honest, were opposed to having homegrown, because, I'm sorry, I have an old middle school teacher and principal, and that is just, to me, a disaster with kids. And there's absolutely was no way to control that at all. So that piece eliminated, with the exception of those people who have medical marijuana licenses. They will be allowed, I believe, for
Correct.
five plants, I believe that's what that is. But we all actually, we are members of the Northwest Municipal Conference, and also the Lake County Municipal League. We all of us wanted to have it regulated as the liquor industry is regulated, which would give the municipalities more control, and that did not happen.
Yeah, I think the presentation I saw, it hadn't quite passed, it was a week before, and it was anticipated that that was what was gonna be. Okay.
No way, Jose.
Well,
Okay.
Never mind.
Okay. We shall see. Options of what we can and cannot do will definitely be coming to this group and for discussion, community. I do need to tell you that, that on did I tell you? I can't remember. I don't think I did because I was talking to somebody else. On June 24th, I will be at 9 a.m. up in Waukegan as a proposal for a liquor license and and video gambling for the new scooters. And I will be up there representing Lake Bluff as we have concerns about that.
Given that it's contiguous, we don't have any power?
Ron,
Nothing?
Notice and comment.
we got notice and
Notice, okay.
comment, and we are been noticed, and I will comment.
Subdivision request, so it's
Right,
not within
so
our-
it's,
Okay.
yeah, so, but I think that we need to comment on that. Okay. So, Steve, we have executive session, but all it is the consideration of the minutes. So I'm suggesting that I make a motion that we do not go in executive session. So I need that first.
You don't need a motion.
I don't need a motion, okay. We will just have consideration of the April 22nd minutes and May 11 executive session meeting minutes. Do I have a motion for that?
Motion to approve, so moved.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Meyer, and a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ankerman.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That was for both sets of minutes.
That's
sets of
right.
minutes.
That's for both sets. Now, can I have a motion to adjourn? No, you don't want to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Charlo. And I need a second.
Mr. Meyer got
Mr.
that.
Meyer has given a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned for this evening. Thank you.
Say yes.